What's up, everybody? It has been a minute. Welcome back to Just in the Nick of Crime. I'm going to start trying to do more here on my YouTube because my good buddy Pascal from the Pascal Show told me that that's what I needed to be doing. So I will, especially because I'm not on TikTok right now, which we'll talk about in a minute. Today, we're going to be talking about a case that is incredibly disturbing. And when I say disturbing, I mean it is now one of the top, I would say top 3 worst cases, most disturbing, heinous, horrific cases that I have ever talked about. Okay. And I'm talking, of course, about Judge James Gosnell from South Carolina, magistrate judge. And if you don't know that story, we're going to get into it in a minute. But I'm going to issue a massive trigger warning on this one for crimes against children, because that's what we're going to talk about. But it gets so much worse. Okay. So a couple things to let you guys know what's going on. I'm going to start trying to do this at least 3 to 4 times a week. Maybe more if I can, even if they're not like full, really long episodes, 15, 20, 30 minutes. Just to kind of do a little bit more here. I'm trying to grow my YouTube to 100,000. We actually just hit 50,000. So I'm very excited about that. Thank you guys for that. We hit 50,000 was my goal for the longest time. We passed that. We're actually 55. So thank you guys for that. Instagram, we are on our way to 1 million. We are at 660,000 there. And Facebook, we just hit 100,000. So we're really moving along. Please give me a follow on those. Real quick, I want to tell you guys what's going on. If you are one of my people who follows me on TikTok, but also other platforms, but TikTok primarily, I'm going to get into this a little bit with you guys, and I'll keep you all updated with more information. TikTok and I are not friends at the moment, and I have not posted on TikTok since I think September 26th, and I'm not posting there for the foreseeable future. I'm not saying that I'm not going to post there anymore, but for the time being, right now, I'm not, and I'm going to tell you why. During everything with Charlie Kirk, and then we're going to get into the story that we're talking about today, but during everything with Charlie Kirk, I posted a few videos. Do you guys know how my style is? It's very, very neutral. I know that I have people who feel strongly about certain issues, especially when they come to political figures, which Charlie Kirk would technically fall under. And the videos that I kept getting flagged on were 2 of them. One was the day that he died, right after he was shot and had passed away. I did a video saying that this is what happened. He was speaking. And to be honest with you, I was in shock. No matter how you feel about a person, you shouldn't, that's not something to celebrate, right? Like somebody getting shot in the neck while they're speaking, that's not how we handle things in America. That's not how we should, at least. So the video was very much neutral, like this is what happened. These are the facts of the situation, not one way or the other. And the other video they did was when they arrested the wrong man initially. And I was like, what the hell's going on here? This is insane. And so TikTok flagged those videos. I appealed them, won the appeal. Then they reflagged those videos. I appealed them, won the appeal. And then they reflagged them and did not give me an option for appeal and put an account ban warning on my account. And then from there, I was good, behaving myself. I don't ever get account warnings, haven't had them in years. They all of a sudden demonetized my account, kicked me out of the creator fund. And the way it works is it takes 30 days before you can apply back in. But with an account ban warning on your account, you have to wait till that falls off, and that's 60 days. So anyways, all of that's what happened. And so you guys know me. I don't sit back and take things lightly. I filed a lawsuit against TikTok, and they should be serving it probably tomorrow to their agents. And I didn't serve it because they took, and I'm going to get into this more later. I just kind of want to give you guys a thing about what's going on before we get into the story that we're going to talk about. But basically, I filed a lawsuit against TikTok, and they're going to get served. And it's not because, oh, you took my video down, you're censoring me. Free speech doesn't apply to private platforms. They just don't. So it's not about that. Take down the video if you don't feel like the video is good. But what we're talking about is the fact that they don't follow their own terms of service, not giving the ability to appeal, not reviewing any of the things regarding trying to get rid of the account warning or get back in. And I'm not going to continue to post on a platform that doesn't appreciate what we bring to that platform. So that's kind of where that's at. So just want to let you guys know that's going on. I will probably do a post once everything is served and everything is filed. I'll probably do a post on Instagram and Facebook for sure, showing you guys what the filing looks like legit court documents. I had to file them with the Los Angeles, LA County Superior Court. So anyways, all of that said, stick around if you want to see that. Here's what we're talking about today. Judge P. Gosnell. Like I said, I see people asking about Diddy. We're gonna do a Diddy video this week, a thing like this to give you guys more information. There's a few things that we need to talk about, but this is about this case because I was doing an update on this case today, and I got so angry about it that I was like, this is what we're going to talk about. So I'm going to warn y'all right now. This is one of those things where, as a creator, I should not be encouraging you guys to scroll away. This right here is one of the most heinous cases I have ever talked about. If you know what it is, you know what it is. But this is going to be talking about crimes against children. And this is a judge. He's currently relieved of duty, so I guess maybe former judge. But this is a judge, a magistrate judge in South Carolina. And we're going to talk about what happened with him, but just letting people know this is horrific and you might not want to listen to it. So I don't want people to scroll away. I will do this in an as social media safe way that I possibly can, but it's terrible. So let me kind of give you guys a little bit of background. Okay. This is I guess we're going to say former judge, former Charleston County magistrate judge, James B. Gosnell Jr. He once presided. His most famous case was Dylann Roof. If you guys don't remember who Dylann Roof is, he was the Charleston church shooter who targeted an all-black church. I don't remember what the casualties are off the top of my head, but they were decent, a lot of casualties. And while he was presiding over that trial, he instead of addressing the fact that the victims were victims and the families of those victims were victims, he decided to talk about how the family of Dylann Roof were victims. Okay, the shooter. He'd also been previously in a separate incident reprimanded for using a racial slur in court. I'm sure you can guess what that is. It starts with the letter N. And despite all of these controversies, backlash, everything that's going on, he stayed in power for years. We know from at the very least, 2003, because that is when he was disciplined for the N-word incident, as far back as 2003. Then in 2015, that's when the Dylann Roof case happened. Okay, so that's when he made that comment, which got a lot of backlash. And the most recent reappointment for him was back in 2023 for another 4-year term, which was supposed to end next year unless he got reappointed, which means that he has held judicial power for roughly 20 years straight through several governors and Senate delegations, which that's important because, magistrate judges in South Carolina are not elected. They are appointed. So let's talk about what happened here. Okay. He basically was initially arrested for the possession of CSAM, and possession and purchase of CSAM. If you guys are like, what the hell is CSAM? It is child abuse material. And the reason that we use that term instead of child word that sounds like the word corn, is because when you talk about that other word, corn or ography, whatever, that implies consent. Children cannot consent. It is not, it's abuse material. These children in things like that, in images and videos like that, they are being abused. Okay. So that's what we call it. That just so people know. And that's what victims are trying to get it called, because it downplays the severity when you use the other word, just so y'all know. So what happened was a tip came in from the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children. They traced that tip, which led to payments. They found payments that Gosnell had made to a man or a distributor, I'm assuming it's a man in the UK, a well-known child exploitation distributor, somebody who distributes CSAM in the UK. And these payments were linked to his phone, email, and address. So they have him dead to rights on that, right? So what happens is they come in and they raid his home. And before I get into the raid, I do want to say this. I don't know if the state of South Carolina had any inclination or not. I don't. When we talk about South Carolina investigations and you go back to things like the Alec Murdaugh trial, where he had gotten away with so much for so long, no investigations because of his power as, a high-powered attorney in a small town, you would think that it's kind of the same thing. But this is now out of South Carolina's jurisdiction. It's the federal government, and they're the ones who came in and raided his home. And in that raid, and this is some of the new information, this is brand new information, okay? They seized 14 USB drives, computers, discs, and ready for this one, guys? You want me to blow your mind? VHS tapes. VHS tapes, cassette tapes, right? That you put in a VCR, which to me, even though it doesn't say it expressly, indicates how long this was going on for, that he would have VHS tapes of this. And this is a guy in his late 60s. I think he's 68. VHS tapes. All right. Now, when questioned, and this is where we're going to get real disturbing. And again, this conversation, y'all, is going to continue to get worse. So I gave you guys a warning. Okay. He admitted to watching videos of little babies. He also allegedly confessed to abusing a 3-month-old that he had babysat for in the past, as well as a 5-month-old that was in his neighborhood. But it doesn't stop there. It doesn't stop there. Okay. In addition to the tons of pictures and videos and VHS tapes that they found, let's talk about some of his online activity. Okay. Because apparently he liked to interact with other child predators, other child abusers. So much so that this guy, this judge, a sitting magistrate judge, allegedly hosted Zoom calls with other predators to teach them his tricks of the trade, how to do it, how to get away with it, both as a predator and as a judge. Okay? Hosted Zoom calls. That's how arrogant this guy was that he was not going to get caught, which makes me kind of wonder if there was some things going on in South Carolina where he didn't expect feds to come in. Okay? But again, I told y'all, this is going to continue to get worse, right? They also discovered conversations with a specific, like one man, I don't know his name, they haven't released that, with a man in Florida. And agents have described these conversations as, quote, unimaginably disturbing. All right? Unimaginably disturbing. Now, they haven't said what those conversations entailed, and it sounds like we don't want to know what they entailed, but agents say that they were reportedly in some type of a relationship, and allegedly they had planned to travel to Florida, where the guy already lived, but together to abuse a baby, an infant. They had planned to abuse an infant. This was part of their plan. So had he not been arrested, who knows what would have happened, right? So he gets arrested. Currently in custody. Bond is denied. He can't get out. He's there. He's like Diddy. He's sitting there till trial, until sentencing. Investigators are going through devices and evidence. They're going to have to dust off a VCR, I guess. It's not funny, but it's disturbing how long this was going on. I don't even think they still sell VCRs, right? Before I go further, I'm gonna pin something here for you guys. And by the way, if you're watching this on Facebook or Insta, or even YouTube and you came in late, this is going to be up on YouTube permanently. Let me get this pulled up here. Hold on. Tell you why I'm showing this in a minute. It's a tip line. You can go watch it there, just so you know if you come in late. This email address that I posted below, the Charleston-exploitation tips at hsi.dhs.gov. This is a federal tip line that they set up specifically for this case, for this man. And they are urging anyone who may have left their child with him or knows someone who did, or maybe knows him in general and you have children, to please come forward, whether you know something happened or didn't, to please come forward. Unfortunately, in cases like this, if parents knew, this guy's a judge, and a lot of people are like, what are you going to do when a judge, especially in a state that I'm going to say it, I live in Tennessee, it's the same thing, a state that's as corrupt as South Carolina is. Alec Murdaugh should not have gotten away with what he did for so long, but he did because SLED in South Carolina looked the other way. It took the federal government coming in to finally get a conviction on that man. It's the same thing here. If he's been doing this with VHS, we're probably talking about into the 90s, at least, maybe older. Anyways, this is an email. If you know anybody in South Carolina, please share this stream or any of the posts that I've done. Get this to them. Get this spread throughout South Carolina. If they lived in South Carolina over the last 30, 40 years, same thing, right? Same thing. And it's a very challenging case, how disturbing this is. And again, he's admitted at this point, he's admitted, right, to abusing a 3-month-old and a 5-month-old. Like, it blows my mind. These are innocent babies. Like they're babies. Like at that age, they can, not even at 3 months, but at 5 months, they can barely even hold their own head up. It's so sick and disturbing and depraved. And you're a grown-ass man who has taken an oath to protect people, you're given the ability to pass judgment on people and sentence people. And for 20 years or longer, this man has been on the bench making decisions. I would be very curious to see some of the cases that he's presided over. Cases involving child predators, cases involving situations where the perpetrator was black, given the racist comments that he's been formally reprimanded for. I personally feel, I mean, it would be a hell of a caseload over this many years, that any case that he presided over needs to be evaluated. I mean, I really think that. I really think that. But my questions are this: like, how does a judge even before they knew about the fact that he was a predator, how does a judge with making racist remarks, things like the N-word and biased complaints, stay in power for over 20 years? And the question then goes to who appointed him, and then who kept reappointing him like it was okay, right? So many safeguards failed here. And I don't really know what you can do to prevent the system, to stop the system from having this happen again, right? I just don't know. If I was in South Carolina, guys, if I was in Charleston and this was a judge in my area, even if it wasn't, and you care about justice, I would demand that every case that this man looked at be, every case that he touched be re-examined, reevaluated. And I would go to my local legislators to do so. I would make it such a big deal. And the thing is, this case is not getting the press that it should be getting. This is very disturbing because what you're seeing here, what's being indicated here, is decades of abuse, right? Decades. So he admits to abusing 2. And we know we've all covered enough true crime, listened to enough true crime, heard enough news stories. We all know that there's more. We all know that there's more than these 2. And the issue is with babies is they can't talk. If they were toddlers, they can't remember if it's been a long time. And so it's like he takes the most vulnerable of the most vulnerable, and that's who he chooses to go after, to harm. And as a parent, like I'm so disgusted and so disturbed by all of this, especially I know that I don't say expect is not the right word. We know that this happens, right? We know that this is a problem and that this happens, and it's horrific and it's horrible. And they don't do enough to safeguard the victims. They don't do enough to the predators. I mean, look at what happened, to Audrey Cunningham a couple years back, where a man who had gotten in trouble in the past, Don Stephen McDougal, by being caught in bed taking a 9-year-old girl's pants off, pled down to enticing a child so he didn't have to register, right? Then you have that kid that I did a video on not too long ago, Camden Lee, I guess it's pronounced Dolly, not Doll, but Dolly, out of the BYU baseball player who abused a family member or step family member, whatever it was, from the time she was 7 to 12. And he basically got a slap on the wrist. And there was apparently another girl, 11-year-old, that he abused at a party. And they dropped that case against him altogether. And he's not going to have to register as an offender, right? And all of these people, they reoffend. Now, this man's not getting out of prison. This man's not getting out of prison. I don't see that happening. But I've said it once and I've said it 1,000 times covering this. The court system does not protect, does not help women and children. It almost always protects the predators. Not always, but almost always. And that's something that needs to be changed. And anyways, I have an idea on part of how we can get some awareness around that, and stay tuned for that. But it's challenging, and it's things like this, people like this in positions of power like this, that prevent victims from wanting to come forward. Because what are you going to do? He's a judge. What am I going to do? How can I get justice from a judge when they're cops, when they're politicians, when they're people of power, extreme wealth, like Diddy? How do you get justice from people like that? And so people just decide to stay quiet. They don't come forward. I have a lot of people on all the channels that I'm watching right now, and you guys don't have to say anything, but we talk about this every now and then when these things come up, and I ask a rhetorical question. Again, you don't have to answer; it's rhetorical. But I guarantee you, between everybody that's watching right now, there's a lot of y'all. I would say at least probably 10% minimum, minimum, that had some type of abuse like this happen to you, whether you were a child or an adult, male or female, and you've never said a word about it to anybody. You never reported it. Your abuser got away because either nobody believed you or you didn't think that you were going to get justice, or you didn't want to go publicly through a court hearing to have things said about you. And it's exactly things like this that prevent that. This story, guys, is far from over because every time I turn around, there's more horrific information coming out. And now investigators are looking into everything. And I'm going to find it very disturbing yet interesting to find out just how far back this goes. When you're talking about VHS tapes, I mean, you're going back. I mean, DVDs are now out, and Blu-rays are now out of style for the most part. So, you've had technology shifts twice since VHS. Generations of media. And so he's going back. I mean, that's 80s and 90s. I mean, even in the 90s, we started transitioning to DVDs, right? So this goes way, way, way back. And I don't know the solution, guys, but one thing I'll say is this. I'll take the tip line down here. When we have social media, we have the ability to change. We have the ability to vote. And while judges like Judge Gosnell here are appointed, the people who appoint them, you do vote for. And so I know that when it comes to the local elections, which arguably are more important than even the national elections, like the election for president or even your state representatives, your local elections, especially, I mean, for your state specifically, those are typically more important because that's what impacts you on a daily life. And those are the ones that you really should be paying attention to. When you have judges like this out there getting reappointed, the moment he made the comment where he used the N-word, he should have been removed from the bench. You fast forward 12 years later, when he starts calling the shooter's family victims and not the actual victims, because the victims were black and Dylann and his family were white, that should have been immediate removal. And that was in 2015. Now here we are 10 years later. So whoever kept reappointing him, there's people that the state of South Carolina kept voting for. So what we're going to do is we're going to show his picture like we are. I'm going to encourage everybody to share this story. Comment if you're watching this on the replay or whatever, make sure to comment on this video, and let's get his face out there, because if there are more victims, if there are people who know him but don't know the story, because mainstream media does not like to talk about stories like this. Okay, I've had that told to me flat out, that these types of stories make people uncomfortable. They make viewers uncomfortable. They don't want to hear them because they're triggering, and they are. I don't like talking about it. But the way that I look at these, and I've said this before too, as uncomfortable it is for me to talk about this. I'm a parent, okay? And I would want justice for my child if, God forbid, something like this ever happened to her. But as comfortable as it is for me to talk about it, imagine how uncomfortable it was for those who lived it, whether it was the children or the family, right? So for the mainstream media who doesn't want linear TV, that doesn't want to cover it, I disagree with that. Be uncomfortable. You should be uncomfortable. And people like this, because people are uncomfortable, shouldn't be allowed to just not have the exposure that they should have. This man deserves exposure, especially when you're in a position. I think my personal opinion is everybody who is guilty of something like this, right? They deserve their predator. They harm children. They need to be held to the fullest extent of the law. The book needs to be thrown at them. But I think when you look at people who are in positions of power, judges, politicians, which is senators, legislators, authority figures like teachers and superintendents and principals, church leaders, right? People who have access, who are supposed to be in a position of trust and abuse that trust to harm. I think that they need to be held to a different standard, a higher standard even. Because these are people, I mean, maybe not as a judge, but these are people putting themselves in positions of power, of trust, so they can continue to feed their depravity, to feed this horrific abuse, and know that they can get away with it and go unchecked. We don't know how many people this man has harmed over the years. We have no clue. So that's what I got for y'all. That's what I got. I want to know what y'all think about it, though. Again, drop it in the comments, especially if you're watching it on the replay, because I do read all of those. Just so you know, I do read all the comments when I can. I mean, when the videos or whatever get up to like the hundreds of, like the thousands, it becomes harder. But I read as many as I can, especially early on. What do you think in a case like this? The other thing that I'll say is, and maybe some people are going to disagree with me, and that's okay with that too. States, I think Tennessee has started it, started at least legislation towards it. Florida has, I think Louisiana has, maybe Alabama. I can't remember. There's a few states that have now made it when you abuse a child under the age of, I think, 11 or 12 years old, whatever it is, that you become eligible for the death penalty. And frankly, I'm supportive of that. Because when you look at people like Judge Gosnell here, this isn't a one-time like slip, right? Like this is something that's cold and calculated and deliberate. The victims that he chose, he knows that they can't talk, knows that when they get to a certain age that they're not going to remember. And by the time they're old enough to talk, they definitely won't remember. This is a man who got into a position of power to make sure that he was safe and probably has been doing this for decades, right? You can't rehabilitate a person like this, and he has probably ruined more lives than that we can begin to imagine. Victims carry this type of thing with them for the rest of their lives. And so when you ruin a life, your life should be taken. Now, this man's 68 years old. He'd sit on death row, whatever, for 20 years. And that would put him in his put him in his late 80s. But there are just so many of these cases that go unchecked for so long, and it's problematic. Anyways, that said, like I promised you guys, I'm going to try to do these more, at least 3 to 4 times a week. So if you are on, whether you're watching on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, which is where I'm live, all the places, please do hit that follow button, hit that subscribe button. It's free. Help me get to that 100,000 here. I'm going to go towards, like I said, 1 million. I'm going towards 1 million on Insta. We're at 660,000. We're going towards 100,000 here on YouTube. I really want that plaque so bad, like the little free silver plaque they send you when you hit 100,000. So please help me get that. Just go over to YouTube, hit the follow. We are at 55,000, so we are more than halfway there. And on Facebook, we're going towards 150. We're at 103 now. But if you follow me on TikTok and you're like, man, I haven't seen you live in a while, and you're coming late and missed the beginning of this, me and TikTok are not friends right now. And I filed litigation against TikTok. So yeah. But that said, guys, I will try to be back on tomorrow. We have some Diddy things that I want to talk about. There's actually, believe it or not, after the sentencing, there's been a lot of Diddy updates, like a lot, including the fact that you can't make this up, that he wants to go to Fort Dix. He wants to do his hard time. I'm gonna take this guy down. I'm tired of looking at him. He wants to do his hard time at Fort Dix. You can't make this shit up. Stuff up. You can't make this ish up. Stuff up. And sorry, YouTube. And then there's some other cases like we need to talk about and get you guys caught up on. So yeah, we're trying to do these like short 15, 20, 30-minute kind of whatever. But that said, I'll be back on tomorrow. See you guys then. We'll probably do it around-ish the same time. And what ideas do you guys have to stop things like this? I'll see you guys soon.